Good afternoon. Hello. Thank you guys for joining us. So we're getting ready to get into our next panel. And so today we're going to be talking about destigmatizing cultures through artivism and creative storytelling. And so a few of you got to experience my song before the break. And so on this side of it, thanks for the thumbs up. So, so on this side of the break, we're going to talk to myself, and we have some amazing panelists that are with us today. Um, so we have Dr. Tia Tyler Tyree, who's with us on today. So welcome her to the platform. And then we have Mr. Kerry Michael Robinson, who's with us today. So please welcome him to the panel. And so what we'll do is we are going to present. Today we're talking about destigmatizing through culture, through artivism, through storytelling, through creative storytelling. And so my name is Marvin Anderson. I'm an advocate. I am based in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Go LSU. Yes? No. Okay. Go Southern? Jaguars? No, not that either. All right. Well, let me just let me move along for y'all. Put me out. Okay. So my organization is SAN, so Stigmocracy Advocacy Network and Development. We are an anti-stigma advocacy organization that focuses on diminishing and eradicating stigma through destigmatization through education, empowerment, and advocacy. Our mission is to educate, empower, and advocate to end HIV stigma and its intersections universally. So today, as we talk about destigmatizing cultures through artivism and creative storytelling, we're going to define artivism for those who do not know. And it's so wonderful to be in this space again. I was here 7 years ago, and you could not have told me at any point that I would, number one, be doing advocacy on this level or be standing in front of a room today, because I was very new to the work, and so I'm really grateful for this conference. But one of the good things about being here is being able to network and connect, and so even on the break I met Bernard, wave your hand in the back, and so we were talking, and so he's an artivist. He has a record that just came out, and so hopefully you get to hear from him on today as well. And so I'm going to talk about the types of artivism, creating artivism. I'll talk about 4 C's of that, which is my journey and my experience. We'll review different models, and then we'll have some conversation with our artists. Is that okay? Awesome. So artivism is the intersection of art and activism, where artists use their creative expressions individually or collaboratively to educate for social and political change. And so artivism is something that we've seen a lot in our daily lives. We've seen them a lot in its advocacy works. And I think that, my desire is that artivism becomes more prominent as we engage in the work that we do, because it's very powerful. So we talk about the types of artivism. I say uninhibited. I just say create, create, create. As you'll see through the model examples that we have for today, that there are no boundaries to artivism. Like whatever it is you can do, if you can paint, if you can sew, if you can sing, if you can dance, if you can cook, whatever it is that's your art, whatever it is that's your craft, then you can couple that with your purpose, you can couple that with your passion and your advocacy, and you have artivism. And so today we're going to talk about artivism in 3 different phases. I'll talk about it from the music aspect, about how I waited till I was 51 years old to become a rapper, and it just worked for me. So who are out of that? Because I didn't know what the heck I was doing, but it worked out well for me. And then we have Kerry's going to talk about a mission. He has an amazing work that he's doing, and then Dr. Tyree's going to talk about some amazing movement work. And so before we go there, so we'll talk about creating artivism. And so I like to think of it from 4 different ways: creative thinking, collaborate, create, and communicate. So creative thinking is like thinking through your process, taking the limits off, trusting your creative energy, trusting your creative juices, being able to allow yourself to flow into a space where, you know what, I'm going to create. I'm going to create from the inside. I'm going to go internal. I'm going to use my passion. I'm going to use my purpose. And I'm going to use my energy to create something that may not have been seen before, but trusting the instinct and trusting your power to create something that's greater than yourself. And then collaborate. You know, when I decided that I was going to do a project, when I did the music project, I initially was just going to do spoken word, and I was just going to do it with some music as a music bed, because the music was universal. And so I have some chosen nephews that are in the studio, and they do hip hop and gangster rap. And so I reached out to them. I was like, yeah, send me some tracks. And they sent me the tracks, and I was like, yeah, this is gonna go with spoken word. So I started to just write spoken word pieces, and then it went from spoken word to rapping. And I was like, well, I've never rapped before, but I'm doing it now, so I'm gonna trust the process. And so I just went with it, and it seems to be working out. So being able to create creative thinking, like let your mind go where you want it to go. Think as high or wide or expansive. Take the limits off of yourself. And also the collaborative process, meaning trusting yourself and trust the people that are around you. How many of you have had people to tell you like, oh my God, that's amazing what you do, and you look at yourself and be like, oh, that's nothing. But it is something, because everyone else identifies it except you. Everybody else identifies the gift except you. So being able to collaborate also means to collaborate with the community that's around you, because a lot of times those folks that love you, that see your artistry, that see your creativity, they'll be able to witness to you what they see before you even see it. And so being able to trust that collaborative process, and then going into the curation mode. You know what? I have this idea that I thought of, creative thinking. I've began to collaborate, you know, because I don't know if it's just me, but when you're in that creative mode, you don't trust it all the time. And so you ask everybody and your mama, like, is this good, right? Should I do this? Should I move forward with this? So trusting that process, and then being able to curate it, and then being able to communicate it to your audience. So my journey started when I got a grant opportunity from Wake Forest School of Divinity, which is a faith conference center, through the Conference Initiative. It was called the Lit Cohort. And so what I was tasked to do was to come up with something artistic that would that would advocate and be an active and do activism on behalf of destigmatizing communities. And I knew that from where I'm from in Baton Rouge, we're always in the top 5 in the nation as far as like diagnosis. And so I knew that I wanted to reach the community. I wanted to reach the community of individuals that were most impacted. And so that was the urban community. So I knew that I wanted to do something urban, which is why I leaned toward urban and urban music and rap. So my initially, like I said before, my project concept was to produce an advocacy through empowerment and HIV stigma spoken word CD. I had other spoken word CDs that are on Apple Music that are streaming. And so I was like, okay, so I was going safe, Bernard. I was just going to do what I've done before. I was just going to play safe. But then when I got the tracks that would engage the listener, I wanted to get music that would draw the community that I was trying to reach in. And so when I began to write to the track, I was trying to write, and like I said before, it just would not gel. Like I was trying to say, the world is great, but did not go with the track that I got. I should have been saying, the world is great. And so I just ended up just going with the creative pace. And so the project I named was Live Beyond the Red. Of course, we all know that red is an advocacy color, and so I wanted to do a project that would empower and educate persons and communicate the Live Beyond the Red, which is the stigmatizing challenges of HIV. So not only did I wanted to create an anthem of some sort for people who are living with HIV, who are being challenged with HIV, but I also wanted to use it as a resource to educate people. And so how could I do that? If I did it through music, if I did it through urban music, then I can reach the community that I was hoping to reach. You know, of course, we know that in the South, which is where I'm from, we know that we have disproportionate rates, which are astronomical. We know that black and brown people, but specifically black people, make up about 20% of the population in the Deep South, where I'm from, but new diagnoses account for about 57%. And so that number almost triples. And so just trying to do something that would reach outside of the doors and outside of the gates of HIV Inc., where we always have these conversations, and reach people who it will help and who would empower and to learn and to educate and bring awareness. And so I went into the studio and I did a 5-track CD. Live Beyond the Red, From Diagnosis to Destiny. And, like I said, I set out, I didn't know exactly where I was going, but I trusted the creative flow. And since I've been doing this work since 2017, this is the most freeing and liberating project that I've ever done because I trusted the process. I trusted the creative process, and I'm reaching people that I intended to reach. And so it's streaming. I put it where it can be streaming, where it can reach folks. So I was very intentional about that. I didn't want it to just be limited to a limited sector group of people. I was very intentional about who I wanted it to reach and how they can get to it. And so, like, it's on YouTube, it's streaming on all streaming platforms, so people can just tune into it. And so I can be found on livingbeyondthered.org and Living Beyond the Red on Instagram. And so then, as you know, when you begin to create, how many cooks are in the room? Raise your hand if you cook. Okay, good. I'm on your street. So and so, it's kind of like you cook something, and then last Thanksgiving, you be like, well, this Thanksgiving, I think I'm going to put a little bit more of gumbo filet in there. Well, that's what we do in Louisiana. I want to put green onions in it this time. I want to add something different. And it kind of just continued to grow. Like, you don't cook the dish the same way you did 15 years ago, right? You find a new way or a new recipe, and you change it. And so during this process, I went from just creating this CD until I can do a mini documentary. So then the documentary came about, which is streaming on social media, on YouTube as well. So then I did a mini documentary for the making of one of the songs, which ended up to be a worship song, because I'm a church boy too. So it's like, okay, well, I guess I can do that too. So just one of the tracks that they sent me just morphed into that. And so it went from that to I did a mini documentary. And then I wanted to be very strategic about reaching people. So I went into the community and I had a listening session, a listening party, because I wanted to do Artivism, right? I wanted to reach people that would not normally get this message. People who are not going to come to the Stigma conference, people who are not going to go to the United States Conference on HIV and AIDS, people who are not going to log on to learn. I wanted to get those people in the room. And so I went out into the community and I had a listening party. So I had about 75 or more people to come who are not accustomed to HIV work. And so I'm like, okay, yes, now we're doing Artivism. So the music drew them in, a listening party drew them in, the way that it was marketed, this is making a video, which I'll show you in a little bit. You heard the song earlier, but then it went from that to a video. And so creativity is like this whole thing that we have available to us, and it's on the inside of us, but sometimes we harness it because we don't trust it. But I just want to challenge people, that are in this room today. If you have a story, then you don't have to tell the story the same cookie cutter way, but you can be creative in your storytelling to reach the audience and the people and the population and the demographic of individuals that you want to reach. And then I did media. So what I did was I wanted to make sure that I wanted to do Artivism, right? I kept keeping it in front of my mind. Like, this is, I know to be received in spaces like this, but I wanted to make sure that I got it out to the community, to do Artivism, to bring art, and to open up that universal door. And so I went to all of the #1 disc jockeys in my city and around my city, and I went on their shows, and I got in, and I got them to play the music, and some of them still have it in rotation because I wanted to do Artivism. So I was very strategic and intentional about what I was going to do with this project. And then I reached out. I just really was prayerful about it and just really trusted the process. And so our senior senator in the state of Louisiana has a radio show. And so I reached out, and I was just kind of like, I'm not going to lie, I was really kind of bossy. I was just kind of like, yo, I need to be on your show. And this is important, and you need to have me on there for National HIV Testing Day. If you care about your constituents, you'll have me on your show. And I was on the show, okay? And so we were able to spread the word, and it was released strategically on June 27th for National HIV Testing Day. And the song was released, and I released with the video as well. And then my second video, I'm excited, is going to be coming out on World AIDS Day. So I'm excited about it. And the project is doing very well because what we're doing is Artivism, creative storytelling, to get us through the doors and in the faces of people that we normally wouldn't do. So this is my team. It was me, and I call them Marvin's Angels, like Charlie Angels. It was 4 ladies that were just there. We had a grant and we had to do some extra fundraising, but it worked out, and so I'm really excited. And so just through the whole process, I just want to show the video, which is I think a little over 3 minutes, and so I'll show the video, and then we will have Kerry to come up and share his work. And then we'll have a conversation after Dr. Tyree. Are we ready?
I made it, y'all. It was tough, but I did it. I'm still standing. I made it, y'all. It was tough, but I did it. I'm still standing. I'm here. And I'm living beyond the worst.
This battle made me raise the bar. Made me realize who I was. The chosen vessel, ready for war. I came back with the winning scars. The sting of venom tried to steal me. I shook it off and said, don't come near me. A trick your mind and made you fear me. I'm not sick, but you try to kill me. Keep saying that you want it to end. Stigma free is the only win. Every man, woman, boy, and girl. Stigma stops when we take a stand. I'm still human in justice's land, but my justice is on demand. You pick and choose when my rights are red, or even if my rights are worth. I fought to keep my mind. I could not realize my life was criminalized. Hey. The hate was normalized. The black and brown lives was headed for genocide. Yeah.
Breaking news. I'm Tommy Thomas reporting for WLIVE. In a recent interview, advocate and artist Marvin Anderson explains how HIV stigma continues to be one of the most dangerous culprits that lends to the continuum of the HIV epidemic in the U.S. and abroad. HIV stigma and discrimination projected by those not living with HIV has a number of unwarranted negative effects and impacts on people living with HIV, including isolation, depression, anxiety, and even fear to access health care and treatment for fear of being judged and ultimately harmed. Marvin says stigma was the venom that tried to kill him.
Let me say it. The stigma venom tried to steal me. I shook it off and said, don't come near me. It tricked your mind and made you fear me. I'm not sick, but you tried to kill me. The stigma venom 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 tried to kill me. But then I thought back, and then I shook back, and then I pushed back, and then I took back, and then I stepped back, and then I kicked back, and I made a comeback. I'm alive, and I'm living. I'm alive, and I'm winning. I'm alive, and I'm living. I'm alive, and I'm winning. Yeah, yeah, I'm living beyond the red. Yeah, yeah, I'm living beyond the red. I'm living beyond the red. I'm living beyond the red. Yeah, yeah, I'm living beyond the red. Yeah, yeah, I'm living beyond the red. I'm living beyond the red. I'm living.
So living beyond the red is.
All right, everybody give it up for Marvin one more time. Give it up. That was powerful. All right, so I'm here to speak to you about Art Bay, which stands for art before anything else. All right, I'm more visual when it comes to art, but no art is off limits, all right? We believe that everybody has an art. Everybody has a gift that we were born to kind of share and leave behind a mark on the world. Everybody has something. We all were created to create, and if we tap into that, you know, your life, our lives will be more rewarding and will be more successful. So Art Bay is essentially an arts, entertainment, and education-based brand with a passion for advocacy. I myself am an artist, but I like to combine activism with art as well. So using art to communicate complex issues, to kind of, to just connect with people, to share and to encourage hope, which is on the back of my jacket. Those of you who asked what's on the back of my jacket, I am hope, okay? And so we have 4 pillars to Art Bay. Again, art, entertainment, education, and advocacy. We like to do things such as like sipping paints, anything from murals, anything from group exhibits that kind of raise awareness from things such as like environmentalism or sexual health. Entertainment, we like to educate, but we also like to entertain. So you might come to some of our events, and we might have you to be a little bit interactive. We might have you participate with some of the artists. We do body painting, so we might give you a brush and have you paint on someone's arm, whatever, the topic is. We might have you kind of convey that in an artistic illustration as well. Again, education. So we like to partner with different organizations. A lot of things we talk about or we touch on in DC specifically is mental health. So we partner with organizations such as like the Covenant House as well. They reduce, their goal is to reduce homelessness in DC while also providing resources for people who are unhoused to get off the street. So us using art to kind of connect with people in that capacity is what we do best. And again, advocacy. So we are a team, okay? So I'm at the forefront. This is the hierarchy. I'm the CEO of Art Bay, but I can't do everything by myself. I always say God will give you a dream and he'll give you a team. So we all are full-time employees, but we're also full-time entrepreneurs. So we have an advisory board. Again, me being the CEO, I always have the initial vision. I funnel it through the advisory board. They kind of help cultivate that vision. And then we have Mr. Sean, who is the business manager. He calls himself a farm artist. So he's a pharmacist by day at AHF, AIDS Healthcare Foundation, and he's an artist by night. He does singing and songwriting. He also played for the Washington Commanders drumline and a plethora of other stuff that I can't even mention. He does so much in the community. We have Ashanti, who's the logistics operations manager. She is a property manager by day, but she also teaches dance. She's a ballet dancer for I'm sorry, I can't think of the name of the company, but they're in DC, and she does logistics and marketing for Art Bay, as well as modeling. Andrew he does a lot of our stage production and things of that nature. So we have a team that kind of helps with everything, and then we have our in-house artists. We consist of over 25 plus artists from all different capacities, anything from like poetry to like visual art, such as painting, such as sculpting, and even music and even media arts. So this is the powerhouse that is a part of the Art-Based Society. A couple of things that we do and what we've done. We started Baywatch. That was something we did primarily during COVID, where we stood outside with our easels and our paintbrushes, and we reiterated some of the monuments in the DC area, painting on canvas, and had people kind of walk past us and get inspired by our artistry. That was a time that we were on lockdown, but we took the opportunity to just paint. Created to Create is another one of our programs that we get funding for. That is where we infuse life lessons with art lessons. So we'll teach, for instance, we work with reentry programs. We work with juvenile detention centers where we might tackle a subject such as like how to blend into society, but we'll teach you how to blend paint on canvas. So we'll try to infuse art with life lessons to kind of get people to think of the bigger picture, but we like dumb it down a little bit so that they can kind of visualize it and use art as a creative outlet in the process. We had a dinner culinary series where we combined the art of culinary with artistry. We also do a lot of paint parties in the area. So again, we do sipping paints, and a lot of times we partner with organizations and contribute a portion of the proceeds back to that organization. And the Velvet Rope Experience is another one of our programs where we honor a predecessor in the arts. So for instance, we've done a tribute to Janet Jackson. We've done a tribute to Earth, Wind, and Fire. We recently did Prince last year. And we really immersed that theme. But the theme of the Velvet Rope Experience, we want everybody who comes to that art show to feel like they're VIP. There's free entry. We give people red velvet cupcakes. And we really immerse people in artistry. So for the Prince Purple Rain event, we had a Prince performer to play his guitar. We had purple themed attire. We had people dress up in their best Prince fashion. We gave gifts away. So these are the couple things that we kind of do to connect people with artistry. Our T-shirt campaign, again, Art Bay stands for Art Before Anything Else. All right, our logo consists of a heart, but it's also the letter B, and it's also an art palette. So when we launched our initial campaign, when we launched the business in 2018, we had a T-shirt with a blank B canvas, and we wanted people to kind of illustrate whatever their art bay was, whether you have a passion for cooking or a passion for cutting hair or counseling, anything, of that nature. We wanted people, everyday people, to illustrate that on their shirt as a reminder of what their passion is or what they're put on this earth to kind of share. All right, and they wear that at the center of their heart as a reminder. So these are some of the examples of what became of the campaign and what people illustrated. Some of our highlights, okay, back in 2020, again during COVID, when there was a time we were forced to be creative, we were fortunate enough to win the Mayor's Arts Awards, which is one of the prestigious awards here in DC for our innovative approach to having events with advocacy and our initiative. So this is an example of one of our events, which was very risque, okay? So we got government funding to have an event called Intimate Encounters, where we explored the art of sexuality and sensuality through the 5 senses. So anything from taste, touch, sight, smell. We wanted to create an immersive experience to raise awareness of sexual health and make people aware of their resources. This was not my idea. Again, this was a group effort, but we pitched it to DC government and we got funding to have this event. So we ultimately wanted people to get educated. So we talked about topics such as, how to masturbate properly, how to engage in BDSM, how to, anything within that community. We wanted to educate and entertain in the process. So we partnered with DC Health. We partnered with a lot of reputable health organizations here to create this immersive event. Again, using art as a tool to communicate. These were some of the infographics we came up with. We wanted to explore all the different statistics of HIV in the DMV area and visualize that in a graphic, again, to make it easy to communicate. The venue we used to have the art show at was called the Selena. It's located in DC. We posted these around the venue so that people can kind of destigmatize themselves and realize it's okay. If you have HIV, if someone has HIV, this is how you can support. So these are some other graphics about what the Intimate Encounters show was about. One thing that I learned, not being educated in this topic at the time, was about consent. So I was talking to some people in the cuddle community, and they mentioned, the importance of consent and, making sure people are okay with the things that they're going to be involved with. So we wanted to make sure we had that present, being responsible, being mindful during the event. This is a video of the event, the culmination of the event. I don't know if it will play or not. If it won't play, then I can direct you to the website. Is there a play button on the clicker? If I hit next, okay. All right, well, ultimately, we literally use all avenues of art. So in terms of taste, we had a culinary experience. We had aphrodisiacs. We partnered with a guy named Mr. Bate who provided infused cupcakes. We had a tattoo artist. We had visual arts. We had, again, a fire demonstration. We had erotic poetry. And we also did HIV testing. We partnered with an organization called Us Helping Us, as well as the Latin American Youth Center, DC Health, the Children's National Hospital, and the HU Stigma Project. So all of these vendors were present. We had 3 floors, all right? The main floor was the education floor. They also had games where people were able to win vibrators. So everybody got a vibrator by answering questions pertaining to sexual health. We also, again, we did testing. So we were able to successfully get about 10 to 12 people tested during the event. So it's like, all right, how many events do you go to where you get educated and entertained in this capacity? So we really felt like we accomplished a lot with this event. Again, the video is really cool video that talks about everything. And we were able to gauge interest in possibly having a future event. I know we talked to representatives at the AIDS Healthcare Foundation and Gilead about getting a grant or funding to have this event again. It happened last year. It didn't happen this year because we didn't have the capacity. We focused on environmentalism and art this year, but next year it could happen. So these were just some of the evaluation and some of the outcomes that we kind of received as a result of the show. I can't see, but hopefully you all can have a better view than I just know that this event, we were able to engage the community and bring so many different people of all walks of life together. One thing that people really communicated to us was they felt very, very comfortable at the event. They didn't mind, getting tested. They didn't mind going into the basement to look at the BDSM demonstrations and learn about the benefits of cuddling and how to use sex toys, and go upstairs to see the performances with the fire dancers and the wax play. And it was just a really, really amazing celebration that really made sexual health and, being educated a lot more entertaining and approachable. And so that's a little bit about what we do and how we focus on this subject in particular last year. So that concludes my segment. Again, I am Kerry Michael. I am an artist in this area, and I am the CEO of Art Base. So thank you all. I hope you all learned a little bit, and I'm going to pass it over to Miss Tia, who's going to talk about movement.
So I will tell you, this is my first conference on stigma, and it's much more about storytelling and visual. So I will go quickly because these slides are not about storytelling, and they're not very visual. So I just want to make sure I keep the energy going in the room. But I just want to talk to you really about the importance of black music. Black music has always been about resistance, about telling our story, about connecting us. And so whether it's from spirituals to gospel hymns to rhythm and blues to rap, black music has always been a place for comfort, knowledge, understanding amongst us as a people. My slides were a little bit janky there, but I just want to think critically through the freedom movement, civil rights movement, and moving through to the Me Too movement. So if you think about a time when we were enslaved, you think about Wade in the Water and the importance of that song to us, how slaves were telling each other how to escape, how to get through the day simply through songs. And if you think about the early 1900s and how we were dealing with a lot of discrimination and segregation and racism in our country, and songs like Strange Fruit played a critical role in explaining what lynching meant in our country. And even through the civil rights movement, when we have songs like Ain't Nobody Gonna Turn Me Around as a freedom cry song during marching. So we've always used music as a way to communicate as a part of our history. I cannot see that, so I'm gonna try to see what you see over there. So I'm gonna go right into hip hop. Hip hop is an area of study that I have been involved with for over 20 years now. And I won't bore you with the history of hip-hop, but it did come out of the Bronx in 1973, really an offshoot of the experience of black and brown people who were mistreated, really young men in our country, and it was dubbed the CNN of the streets. So where individuals who had little to no voices could not get on the 6 o'clock news to tell their stories, are being ignored and stigmatized as a part of, low-income U.S. culture. Rap music became a voice for them. And we are familiar with some rap artists like Tupac and Public Enemy, and maybe Common and NWA, who really had verses that may have changed people's lives and perspectives. But ultimately, rap in general was a movement in and of itself to really start storytelling. I think now we know best over the last year, Kendrick Lamar. He is a conscious rapper. He has done much for us. Despite the rap beef, that was a little different on the side there. But he is a conscious rapper who helps us tell stories. There are many movements in rap. There are many different types of rap, from party and gangster to conscious to drill to hardcore, religious, West Coast, East Coast, all types. Regardless, it is still a way for young, usually black men, women, brown folks to tell their stories. Okay, so I want to talk to you a little bit about what I think is more centered in what we are doing right now, and that's to talk about women in rap and how we have gotten to the renaissance that we are right now. If you are someone who listens to rap music, you will know that we are in a different place. Historically, there have been usually one woman rapper taking the spotlight at a time. Those women were usually attached to rap crews and allowed to bubble up, have their say, and immediately knocked down by the next woman that the music industry wanted to highlight at the time. The Me Too movement was a pivotal movement for many women in this country. It was a time where we were calling forth and asking for our rightful places in many industries, and the music industry was no different. When we were all sitting in quarantine, something amazing happened. There was a song that came out called WAP. Many of us know that well. But it wasn't just the lyrics in that song that started to make a pivotal change in the rap music industry. It was the fact that two of the most popular women at the time chose not to beef at the moment, but chose to collaborate. That showed that they were willing to work together, willing to tell their sexual stories, highlight their sexuality in a way that had not been done kind of as a duo. And it really, really did change the dynamic of how we see women in rap and how women's voices got elevated in rap. And honestly, we have been doing this as black women in rap for a very long time. Some of us who've been around for a long time know, like Queen Latifah and MC Lyte, and how they were telling men for many years to give us our space, respect us. But we also have been, I guess, inundated with messages from black men and brown men who've over-sexualized us and kept us in the arena of, I guess I can say it here, we've said other bad words, but bitches and hoes for so long in that industry. But over the last few years, much of that has changed. And I have just going to highlight 4 quick studies, 2 mine and 2 not mine. But I looked at how women beef in rap music. And the misogyny and the misogynoir exist greatly. And a misogynoir is just misogyny directly to black women. Sexual messages a long time ago were usually veiled and coded. There is no misconceptions now about what is happening sexually in rap music. It is very, very explicit. And risky sexual practices are highlighted more than safe sex practices. In fact, there are the genres of rap that I just spoke about. One of the genres is called dirty rap, which wasn't there. And it is rap that's heavily influenced by sexual messages. And just the stigma alone with that type of rap music being called dirty rap shows that kind of when you're talking about sex in any industry, it could be problematic. But sex positivity has been something that has been bubbling up in this area for a long time. And it is giving women a chance to have their conversations heard and have them seen in a different way. A study that the slide isn't up there is that there was a study recently about women listening to rap music and how they feel about women rappers and them expressing their sexuality, and they felt very empowered by that. So while we're in a place where it's oversaturated with sexual messages, we have more women's voices in rap music. It is definitely a chance for us to see things differently, but we're also not having that moment to really talk about safe sex practices. And there's a lot of contention between women and men in real life and in the rap music industry when it comes to condom usage and how women are seen as sexual objects and not being able to take control of their sexuality or their sexual practices. So there's a lot of work to be done in the real world in the rap music industry when it comes to black women telling their stories and being protected in those spaces.
Thank you all again for joining us. So now we want to have an opportunity to open up for questions, comment, feedback. So we just want to have an opportunity to have that conversation now with our wonderful panelists. And you get to ask us about your CD that you're going to go home and make next. Or a book you're going to write, or a story you're going to tell. So yeah, so this is the time. Any questions, feedback? Yes. Can we turn on the lapel mics, please?
Email me and I will give you any study you want. I will literally just email it back to you. But a lot of my work is published, and you can just Google it, but just email me. I'll give you anything you want.
Is it on?
Yes.
Young man from Baton Rouge. I know Bootsy is one of the rappers that rap about HIV in Baton Rouge, you know, and I can remember him. He had his line like Baton Rouge, the home of HIV. And sometimes rappers, when they have a negative energy that goes along with it, and they are willing to talk about HIV, how can you get that artist, you know, to come into the arena for its ending the HIV epidemic when sometimes it's a lot of negativity go along with their messages? You know, I've been working in the field of prevention a long time, and you know, Baton Rouge and New Orleans have some of the hottest rappers out there that have a platform. How can we engage those people to begin to talk about HIV? You know, like the last conference that was in New Orleans, I would have thought, well, let's invite Birdman, Lil Wayne. Let's start this conversation with the rappers that could reach that population that is hard to reach with a positive message about HIV.
You know, while I do appreciate the talents and the likes and the platforms of Bootsy and other artists, I think it's incumbent upon ourselves to come and save ourselves. And so I think we have very powerful people in this movement. And while I would appreciate my homeboy Bootsy to change his language, to change the way that he approaches topics for marginalized communities, like his daughter, who is a lesbian, who he bashes online, and so constantly, or in his music, which is the misogyny, which is the misogyny, where you know he heralds, you know, two women being together, but he bashes Black gay men, and so I don't know if I would herald the likes of or wait for Bootsy to come and save us. But I do know that we have powerful individuals that are in this room, or people like myself. I performed at USAHA this year, and it was well received. And the word is getting out. So I think that if we, so while I do appreciate celebritism, and while I do appreciate sensationalism, I do also appreciate propelling and pushing and promoting people like ourselves and like yourself and people in this room to say, you know what, we have voices and we have power, and we can use our advocacy to do that.
What I'll say is rap is deeply commercialized, and so there's always a concern with rappers about, if I do this, will it impact my bag or will it impact my money? And so it's always, if I start to speak on this subject, what does it mean for me? And we won't even get into cancel culture. We won't get into, you know, my fandom. What will my fans think? What will my fans do if I begin to speak about this, if I begin to advocate for that? Because the rap industry is extremely misogynistic and it's extremely patriarchal. So men run it and men expect men to behave a certain way. And so if he's going to take a turn on that, what does that mean for him in terms of him being able to book a show next week, or him being able to sell the next song that he's going to put out if it runs contrary to all that he has created his narrative and his lived experience to be. So it's very dangerous for someone, especially like him, who's been in the industry for decades, to then, become something different, because that can impact his literal livelihood, which is why they stay sometimes and often in these very toxic ways, because that's what they're known for and that's what sells for them.
But we are grateful to have the women's movement in music, because if we go back and we look at TLC, who talked about safe sex and talked about condoms. If we go back to Salt and Pepper, let's talk about sex. Like, it's always been like those women that were, taking the lead and stepping outside of the box. So I didn't think about it so I can tell you studied rap music. But yeah, that's absolutely true too, is that, because of stigma, and if I talk about it, does that mean that I'm impacted by it? Does that mean that I'm living with HIV? Or why all of a sudden am I not talking about this subject? And so we have all of those things to consider.
Yes, so hold it close to your mouth. Okay. So I'm an alum, everything, mommy, HU, okay? And I worked in the Department of Pediatrics with Dr. Roland B. Scott, who is like the pioneer to all of this sickle cell. However, I'm trying to deal with gender and stigma, not so much with sickle cell, because I think we're kind of working with it pretty well. But with females coming out and letting younger females or young females letting each other know, it's not, you don't have to keep it in if you have HIV/AIDS. The guys will speak up about it more, it seems, especially transparently. But it seems as if a female comes up and says that, at a podium, everybody, or they're shy to do it because we females, we go through a lot of keeping stuff in. That's why we get, in my opinion, cancers of the breast and the lower parts. And my mother lived till 101. If you bothered her, she would tell you straight. She let it out. But we keep it in because society's going to say, oh my gosh, you're a female and you have HIV or AIDS. So how can we, and the young people aren't in here, and I went to HU. We need more Howard students to be told that they have to come here. I used to bring my students, I used to teach Spanish here, and I would bring them to this. I would have 3 rows of students, because if they don't know how to protect their health, what I'm teaching them in Spanish, they're not gonna survive to use it, right? So how can we get more females and more of the Howard students to be here? I was here last night with Dr. Carr's stuff over in education till almost 9 o'clock. And I graduated from here 50 years ago, so I don't have to be here. But I would love to see my students here. Where are they? They weren't there last night either.
So I won't give you an answer, but I will give you perspective. And it's unfortunate for women in U.S. culture and other cultures, but we'll just talk about U.S. culture for a minute, that we are so tied to our sexuality, that we are so much viewed and appreciated and highlighted for how we exude sex, whether we can produce children through sex, and everything involves our sexuality, how we get up in the morning and whether I take this and I zip it down, how much of my breasts are gonna show at work or something like that. So everything we do is tied to sex. So if and when I am now going to expose something about myself that then connects to my sexuality and makes me a horrible connection that I heard this weekend, damaged goods, then why then would I be so open to have that conversation out loud when I know what that could mean to me as just an everyday individual? it's still a society where men can kind of bounce around and bounce back much faster than a woman can. So it's hard for us when society pushes our sexuality to the forefront so much for us to show that type of vulnerability.
And I would just like to add that although you may not have heard voice, but I just want to give out some shout out to some kick-ass women and girls that I know in this country. My mothers to the work, Gina Brown from New Orleans, Vanita Ray from Houston, Texas, Marnina Miller in Houston, Texas, Shadon McCants, and the list goes on and on of women. But what I can say is that disclosure is such a, again, we're at a stigma conference. Disclosure is combated so much by stigma and the safety. And a lot of times women are more prone to interpartner violence and abuse when they disclose more than any other population that is doing this work. So with all things to consider, but you know, we do have a large caravan and an army of girls and women who are speaking out. So we'll just continue to do the work, and then when we talk with people like from Art Bay, like the Intimacy Encounter and things of that nature, when you say how can we get the word out to these students, well, here's a resource right here, like having these great events that opens people up to open up themselves and to tap into sexual health and wellness. So maybe you need to tell them how to get in touch with you, Carrie.
Oh, yeah. I don't know, is my mic on?
It's on.
Okay. Yeah, to Marvin's point, like connecting, collaborating with people who can bring people out, and we have to get creative with our marketing avenues. Again, sex sells, unfortunately, and you might have to do some things to kind of lure people here, and when you get them here, you know, you're entertaining them. Maybe have a performer or something like that. But like, if it would be dope to have Cardi B and Meg actually physically in the space, maybe they can perform, but then have people like that speak, you know, on behalf of the women, because these are the people that they see on social media. These are the people, this is the new generation that they have to look up to. But seeing, you know, the flip side of them being entertainers, you know, they're knowledgeable on the subject matter. But yeah, connecting with people, you know, who can do creative marketing, you know, whether it's on social media, whether it's creating videos, whether it's infographics, actually physically going into spaces, setting up sculptures around the school, something to give people a visual so that they will want to come, because like you said, they should be in this room as well. So if you want to get in touch with me, you can go to Art Bay online, ArtBaeOnline.com, and that's Art Bay online on social media as well.
Okay. I just want to thank you all for being so creative and addressing the problem so creatively and through art, because Black people are creative people. We dance, we sing, we paint, we write, you know, and you all are actually inspiring me to tell my story. And the way that, Carrie, the way that you have come up with all these very different events, it's a beautiful thing. You know, and all we need to do is do more of this. You are reaching people in a way that we've got to save ourselves. And I think by using art as a means of activism, that is such a powerful thing to do. And I just want to say I'm inspired, and thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Observation, and I believe in speaking great things about people while we're here. And I do have to say thank you to anyone who's participated at the podium, because I'm always in the audience running my mouth at any single conference at Howard. People see me on the street and say, I remember you from Blackburn Center. But I want to thank all of you and Dr. Rana. I've been coming to this from before COVID. So you just count 5 years and add some more, and you get it. So I have the original bags that I will have in my Stigma museum. And I have the hat now for the marathon, but I don't run. I am at the tape saying yay to all the people coming in. So that's what I'm saying to all of you in the audience as well as on the stage. And Dr. Rana, just keep it up. I don't need a job. I'm retired. I travel the world. I've been in Asia 3.5 months since you saw me last by myself. But I do love your zest for stigma. I mean, well, it's against stigma, but it's for stigma, to combat stigma then. So keep it up. And all of you, I don't know who you are, but you, everybody, thank you. Yes. And I couldn't go up there and always bare my heart like that, you know. So if you can bare your heart.
I had a question for Dr. Tyree. When you were talking about how rap music now for women is like very sexual, but as black women, we're already kind of over-sexualized. What's your opinion on like the reclaiming your sexuality in rap music, but still being over-sexualized as black women?
So that's so layered. I had to, like, it stresses me out to even answer it. So what I will say is this. I will say this first. Women rappers, if you have not noticed, have taken on a masculine stance with their sexuality, right? So men are giving head, suck my balls, all the things that men say, women are saying to kind of place them in the rap music space in an even language lexicon with men. So even though they're very sexualized in this moment, they're still trying to use the same language and the same aggressiveness that men are using or have used in this space. That's the first point to make. So they're mimicking what has already been in existence to make room for themselves, which is problematic. But there is a moment where they're at least saying different types of narratives, which is that I want to be pleasured. I'm not just someone who is kind of receiving a sexual act. That is very different, right? So in the same sense as they're being over-sexualized, the narrative is slightly different because now they're saying that this is about me getting pleasure and not me just as a part of the sex act with someone else. So for that, we also have to celebrate the moment. But it is true that in all of this airtime that we're getting, and all of the YouTube views that we have, and all of the streaming downloads that we have, are we literally using this time, this renaissance with women in rap for the greater good of women empowerment? And the answer to that is no. I have the research that proves that we're still doing much more tearing down of other black women than we are of lifting us up as literally women in this very, masculine space. So we have always been over-sexualized in the rap industry. We are doing it ourselves now. True, because sex sells, and that's what society is enveloped in anyway. But we're here in volume, which is something that we have never been able to say. You could listen to the radio for hours and not hear a single woman. You couldn't listen for an hour and not hear multiple women now, right? So it's all these reasons to be excited about where we are. It's just that what we're doing with this spotlight is not very productive.
Any other questions? So I just have a little kind of quick question to add in about that. So you always have like the the big kind of rappers who have like the attention and the money and the everything behind them, who get the most attention and the most airplay. But there have always been other rappers like Rhapsody, No Name, you mentioned Common earlier. There have always been other rappers that are out there that aren't playing that same game. Where do they fit into the conversation?
So J. Cole is a perfect example of that, where he wants to put out good rap, but doesn't care about the machine that is the rap industry, right? So he will say, you know, I can walk down the street, you know, freely because I don't get into the social media hype. I don't do interviews, right? I don't do all the things that make me a celebrity. And that's what a lot of people don't understand, is that some people want to rap, some people want to be celebrities, some people want to be movie stars. So it depends on who we're speaking of and what their intentionality is. And that was a big part of the beef between Kendrick Lamar and Drake. Drake says, I'm in this rap music industry to teach, to inform, to make a difference, and you are a colonist, you know, from another country here just to make money off our backs. So it really does depend on what your intentions are, because if you're willing to do all the promotion, you're willing to do the social media, you're willing to do all of those things, then you're going to be elevated and you're going to have more attention, and your voice, of course, will be amplified more. But there are some people who are in it and they play the game every day and they do the work to have the fandom and the fans. And there's some people that just come in, drop music, and go. Common is one of those who'll attach himself to a big project. He'll have a single out, and then he's back to something else. So it depends on who they are and what they're really trying to do.
And I wanted to add to that, when we're talking about Artivism and creative storytelling, those powerful platforms, but even for those of us and those of you that are entering into the space of Artivism and creative storytelling, some words you said were very powerful. Intentionality. You know, what do you want to convey? What story do you want to tell? And what do you want to happen? And so those are all of the things. So not just in rap music, but also in other forms of storytelling, we have to know those things. What's your intention behind doing it? And, you know, a lot of times in the advocacy work and HIV, sometimes we get lost in it. You know, we have, even in this work, you know, we have celebrities or people that are well known, but then we have other people who are doing great work too. And so we just have to stick to what the intention is behind it as well. So I just wanted to add that, because those are very powerful words that you used. Yeah.
Look, and me as a visual artist, a lot of the times, I really don't like being in the spotlight. I'm an extroverted introvert, but because I have the skill set, you know, to put people in the room for the benefit of a greater cause, or to bring a lot of creatives together, you know, I'll stand behind the scene. I don't need the notoriety. I just want to produce events, produce great art, communicate a message, and then I'm on to the next project. You know, I shy away from anything that's giving me too much attention, because, you know, that's not what I intend. And people will create a narrative for you. You know, a lot of times, you know, you'll be producing an event that's geared towards, you know, again, like sexuality, and then people try to place you in certain brackets in the process, and I'm like, this isn't what this is about. This is to create a message about, you know, being educated on sexuality. I don't need you to try to put a pass on me or try to do all that. I'm in this space to create and to share, and then I'm on to something else. So I just wanted to add that as well.
Okay, well, I think we're going to get ready for our final session. Thank you so much. I learned so much about rap. Did you know? It was great for me. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Yes.
That's good.
You guys are so fun.